Hello, Chris Jolly of NovaHoops.com here, and I'm here to preview the Liberty District, which is always a fun district on the guys' side and the girls' side. This is a guys' preview. It's always a fun district because of the rivalries. Let's go to Arlington. You got all three Arlington public school teams there in Washington, Liberty, Wakefield, and Yorktown. You got McLean, Langley. You got a couple other teams in Herndon and Marshall that are close by as well. Good rivalries in the Liberty. They change it up all the time, but that district has managed to kind of still retain some of the most intriguing storylines. So let's talk about the Liberty boys this year. The favorite, as we go to the standings from last year, is Washington Liberty. Washington Liberty finished 11-1 and won the district tournament. They're always a threat at regionals and nationals, coached by veteran coach Bobby Dobson. This year is no different, but they're going through quite the tragedy there now. Braylon Mead, who was a senior there, passed away a few weeks ago when he was hit by a drunk driver. All we can say to that is just our hearts break. We know Braylon was a good guy. He followed us on Twitter, and there's nothing we can say except we're heartbroken. We can only imagine what the Washington Liberty community has gone through in the last few weeks. Our prayers go out to you guys. But what we do know is you guys are still going to play basketball this year because that's what Braylon would have wanted, and you're going to be a good basketball team. Let's start with the backcourt, whereas that's where you start with Washington Liberty. James McIntyre and Brian Weiser are seniors now, and that could be the best returning backcourt in all of public school basketball, arguably, in the area. Certainly one of the best, no question. They're going to go far. Brian Weiser is a tall guard who is probably one of the best defensive guards at picking people's pockets in the region. He's a 6'3", 6'4" guard with a lot of length that can do a lot of things, get to the rim. And James McIntyre, quite simply put, in the district, he's a smaller guard. You don't want the ball in anyone else's hands. You could argue in the entire region when there's going to be key plays down the stretch, there's no one you'd rather have the ball in his hands than James McIntyre. Fantastic shooter, fantastic player, smart, good passer, does it all. So that right there gives Washington Liberty in the tight games that they are going to have some tight games in this district. There is some talent in this district, but you have to give them the edge just having McIntyre and Weiser, especially McIntyre on offense down the stretch. Those two have played with each other forever. They have the chemistry. They're going to be tough to stop. What another good thing Washington Liberty can boast is kind of like South Lakes. They have a really good football player by the name of Elijah Hughes. I think he's one most valuable football player on their football team for the last 3 years. He's a wide body. He's very strong down low in the post. He can set picks. He can score and rebound. That's a big factor. Not all teams have that luxury. There are very few good post players anymore. There aren't that many great post players in this district. It is an extremely tall district. So having Elijah Hughes there is going to be big. I believe the Generals also returned seven players from last year's team in total, including those three. So you have some veteran leadership there. Obviously, the factor of what happened to Braylon Mead is a factor. How well the Generals react, I think it'll be positive. These are resilient, strong kids, and I think they're going to come out and play inspired basketball. And, I have yet to see a Washington Liberty team not play inspired basketball in the postseason. So they're the favorites. They were 11-1 last year. They are this year as well. However, I don't think the gap is that huge. I think some teams are going to give Washington Liberty a challenge, especially on those teams' home court. Let's start with Marshall, the team that went 9-3 last year, coached by Jerry Lim, one of the best up-and-coming coaches in the area. They have a do-everything guard named Matthew Leonard that won some games for him last year. I mean, he wasn't the only reason, but he was a big reason. A taller guard who does it all. And he doesn't probably get enough credit around here because he does so many things well. He plays other sports well. in addition to basketball. It starts with him. Very good defender, very good guard. That's a nice thing to have come back. And watch Jason Penn. Jason Penn was a sophomore last year, a junior this year, a small guard. He's going to take a big leap this year. So conceivably, that backcourt of Penn and Leonard can be basically as good as most any backcourt around. So we'll see how that goes. But watch Jason Penn this year. He's going to take a big leap. The key might be Charles McDermott. He's a tall guy returning from last year's team. They lose some height, Marshall. They lost a good senior class last year. So we'll see if Charles McDermott, he was a role player last year, but he was in the rotation. If he can step up and provide a little more production in the front court, Marshall's going to be good this year. I mean, I think they're going to be good anyway. They can be very good if players like McDermott step up. He's one to watch as well. Let's talk about Wakefield. Obviously, you can never discount Tony Bentley and the Warriors. They haven't had the depth. They've had, they've had some COVID troubles the last 2-3 years. Who hasn't? That is true in Arlington. But they haven't had the depth that some of Coach Bentley's teams have had in the past. But they got guys that can play as well. They got this is a common theme in this district. A lot of teams have 2 or 3 players that can really play. Wakefield definitely does. They have the relentless. These were all district players last year. The relentless Kobe Davis, Seth Langford, who is a guard. He's a superlative defender and a very good player. And we like Jose Fudd as well, who returns, a guy who can hit the 3 and do some things. Does Wakefield have the depth? That's really the question. If they do discover the depth to play what Coach Bentley wants to play, that up-tempo, full-court defense, aggressive defense, Wakefield's going to be right there. And they're going to be good in any case, and nobody's going to want to play them in the Liberty at Wakefield, as it is. So put them up there. Langley is another team that has some players we really like. They get a new coach, David Conroe, over from Rockridge, I believe. So they're going to be different. They're learning a new system. They lose the most fantastic player around, probably in the public school ranks, in Arakat, who went to, I believe, Randolph-Macon off the top of my head. Guy would score 20 a game and not think anything of it. But they'll be good. They have some all-league players coming back. Brendan Manson, Machiavello. Let's see. Ryan Bradshaw. I almost forgot about Ryan Bradshaw. Fantastic guards. They can shoot. They can play defense. Question is, do they have enough down low to get it done in the post and defend some of the taller teams? And Liberty get away with that a little bit because, again, like we told you, it's not a district that's particularly tall. It's not as tall as the Concord district. But there are some depth questions, and they're learning a new system there. So let's talk about the other teams. We talk about depth. The one team that may have had the depth, and we're not sure anymore, is McLean. McLean has 9 seniors on their roster. Didn't have a great year last year, but definitely improved towards the end of it. However, we've heard that they have some injuries and some of their players early on this year, some of their all-league players coming back. So we'll see. There's some rumors I had heard. I haven't talked to Coach O'Brien yet, but I had heard that one of their players is gone for the year, one of their better players. We'll have to see about that. But there is some depth, and there's a lot of seniors on that roster. So they have, on a given night, definitely the capability. They're well coached to give teams trouble. We'll see about that. I'll follow up on that, obviously. Another team that lost a lot of good seniors was Yorktown under Coach Joe Reed. They've been playing recent years an up-tempo system with mixed results, but positive generally. They have some talent coming back until I hear differently. Ben Kulam, Liam Vitters. They have some experience and they have some firepower. I think Yorktown had kind of a down year last year, and I expect them to do better this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see them rise in the standings. Didn't have a particularly good year last year, but they do have the firepower to do a lot better this year. And we'll see if they play that up-tempo system, if they continue to play it. This district doesn't seem to have a ton of depth, so Yorktown can really hurt some people, I think, with that system. It's just a matter of, do they have the depth? We'll see. The final team that finished last year is Herndon. Now, they're going to take a step up this year as well, and that's in spite of losing one of our favorite players in the region, Aiden Grine, who was a fantastic player, just one of the most underrated players in the region last year. However, Herndon only lost 4 seniors, so they've been playing for the future. The future is, I wouldn't say it's here yet, but it's getting to be here. Their young talent really learned a lot last year, and I think they're going to take a step up because they return a lot of kids, almost the most in the district, I think, other than McLean, or maybe right at where McLean is. I'm not sure. So we expect them to win more games this year, and we'll see how that plays out. Going to be tough to upend Washington Liberty, I think, with that backcourt, and it just goes to the fact that James McIntyre, there's nobody better you'd want the ball in their hands towards the end of a game. And Elijah Hughes there clearing some space. There aren't very many dominant post players in this district, so the Hughes playing basketball is a huge thing, even though he's a football guy. So Washington Liberty probably is the strong favorite to win this district in the regular season. However, in the playoffs, I think several teams are going to be dangerous, so we'll see how that plays out. Hope you enjoy Liberty basketball this year. We always do.